Hey, this is Jesse Hart here on our fourth podcast, which I have decided to name this podcast Your Show, spelled lowercase y, capital O, capital U, capital R, as an our show. And I have David Smowton here, as we have the first day. Inspiration, keep meeting up at Rogue Roasters and just finding lots of good friends. And we also have a good friend of mine, Cole Reddy, here. And we're just discussing a little bit about people's need to lower their inhibitions through overconsumptions of drugs and alcohol. Something that I've been focusing on lately as I seek to find my highs through a plethora of different ways, namely through health practices. But on occasion there is that drug trip, but it does tend to get overly, what would you call it? People get overly connected to it.
And attached, for sure.
Attached to needing some form of something outside of themselves in order to get them to feel a certain way.
Sure.
And you were saying, Cole, about it being just like such a waste.
It's kind of an anachronism. Like everyone going out every weekend, we work, and then we come out and we are getting drunk, and then we're getting high off of each other getting high. And that's what most people want, is we all want to be wanted. Everyone wants to hang out. And then you wake up on the couch the next day trying to figure out where all your money went and how you're going to fix being hungover.
Or just crack another beer and just keep at it.
Yeah, exactly. Continue with that momentum and just go until you crash and have to change.
That was a lifestyle I totally embraced back in the day when I was younger in high school and in my early years in college. And I didn't really know any better. I was just having fun and going with the flow. And I would catch myself at moments where I'd be looking around the room or in the party and kind of thinking to myself what is this? What's really going on? Where's my life going? I don't see much depth here, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I didn't really have any answers. And long story short, I don't participate in that lifestyle choice anymore, and I feel completely at peace and happy with that. And knowing that when I go and hang out with friends, it's not because of what we have in common is a drug. It's what we have in common is respect and knowledge and wisdom. Mm-hmm. That's what attracts us, and that we have we relate with, rather than some form of external drug to pacify our wants and needs.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the compelling nature of realizing that we seek those highs and we feel ourselves changing, and then we see other people doing that. I think that's maybe the underlying, what do you call the existential rabbit hunt or rabbit hole. It's that idea where when you're getting drunk or you're getting stoned and you're watching other people turn into other people, and you're feeling different, it's that's sort of it's like quixotic. It's like a form of hypnosis almost.
Sure, yeah.
And it's self-projected, and you're seeing other people. And one of the things that I remember thinking a lot was, there's an audience for the kind of thoughts that I have, because everyone is now on this kind of altered level.
Mm-hmm.
But the fluidity of it doesn't come back over into sobriety. It doesn't unlock for everyone this kind of new state of consciousness. They're only that much of what they are in the time that they're that high. Mm-hmm. And then it goes back in the box.
Right.
They wake up.
Where'd it go?
They go for a run. They go outside. They go for a walk or something. And then they come back. And then, as soon as the high is over, that lucid expansion, it just goes right back in the box.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's curious. I wonder, when you talk about that, David and I were talking earlier about humility. I wonder what the correlation is between what is released when you take certain drugs or get into that particular high that you like, and humility. Because I find now that what led me to being able to get high sober is being completely humble with myself and being able to do things more freely as if I were drunk, like dancing, for instance. At first, I didn't know how to dance, it would help a lot to have a couple of drinks before even taking a lesson. And I would absorb more. Now I've gotten to the point a few years later where I don't need to do that anymore. I can just enjoy dancing, be it a class of a structured dance or a not structured dance like ecstatic dance, freely, and get those unique highs sober. And it took humbling myself. It took going through the process of being kind of crappy at something and looking dumb. Only to myself, though, I realized mainly is I was my harshest critic. No one else out there really seemed to care very much about how I was acting.
Even if they're judging you, most people don't have the nerve to just outright cause a confrontation.
Right.
And say, oh, that's garbage. Whatever you're doing is no good.
Yeah, so an unspoken judgment is the same as no judgment, practically, unless you keep engaging that person and, engaging in that sort of energy. But
it's creating an argument in your own head. This may not actually even be happening anywhere else. And so the idea of people thinking about you is the thing that's actually screwing you up from succeeding sometimes with things like that. I see that in myself, or I feel that. Like
overly self-conscious or deconstructively self-conscious.
Yeah.
Because you might be tapping into someone else's thoughts a little bit, but you're never going to be able to figure out word for word. You're mostly defining yourself in terms of other people defining you.
I think systematically we all share common traits because we derive from the same culture by region, and that we're all human, and that the culture of all of this came from other humans, and we're all basically structured the same. So you think like how other people think, or you can see how they would find something to pick at you. Some of that's experience, and some of that's intuition based on observation, and it's a logical
life
system.
Experience, yeah.
Even though it's based on emotions and it's based on something that is otherwise considered not consistent, as a human, it's still, that's the consistency, is that it's human. I mean, it's created by the structure of what we are and the way we even deal with reality by what we can actually do with our bodies and our brain. So
really interesting.
But on that idea of creating situations where I can't see anyone else seeing me and try to even engage that, I put myself at the front of the classroom. Because then I can succeed by only focusing on what I'm trying to do and not thinking about what other people might be thinking, because I'm not engaging them. I'm not viscerally able to view what they're doing or do my silent judging in the back and dealing with my own insecurity. I have to perform what I'm doing because I'm directly in front of it.
But that's like humility. You put yourself into the situation and then you have to do it. You find the more you focus on what you're doing or thinking about why you're doing it, the more you're gonna, fumble. But if you just have humility, you know that you are reasonably well enough to at least be in the space of whatever you're doing. You can do your best, which will get better through practice. That's just the way of things. It will grow the more you practice it.
Being conscientiously selfish.
Yeah, and if someone has a constructive critique, well, then that's actually good for you. Having an extra perspective outside of yourself will enable you to get greater highs. Mm-hmm. As long as you don't take things personally and know that the person's not necessarily judging you, but making an observation, which you can take with you or not. Maybe you don't relate to it and it doesn't really matter. Just let it roll off your back.
It kind of reminds me of the 4 agreements.
Sure. Yeah, don't take things personally. That's
and just be impeccable with your word and don't take things personally. Mm-hmm. I forget the other 2, but
I get all fiery sometimes.
But they've been great. Yeah.
I was whatever I was before I decided I wasn't, or what I'm trying to be, or they're all built in there. It's not a question of if; it's a question of when. And that's like the whole thing about when people get all lit up like Christmas trees, and then you see this other person come out. It was never a question of, it's not because they're offensive or because they became something else. It was always there. And so trying to explore that and not fight with yourself too much, because they're already what they are. You're already what you are. It's just a matter of that thing developing.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. I think that's a good time to end it. Thank you very much, Cole Reddy and David Smowton. Signing off till next time.